come to the end of 2024, I thought I'd do a quick review of the channel and some of the popular videos and some of the videos that generated the most comments. Very popular video was the upgrade of the Baofeng DM1701 DMR radio to OpenGD77 firmware. By upgrading to the OpenGD77, you actually transform the radio into something much more usable and much more user-friendly. So I'm not surprised that that was a popular video. One surprise was the Baofeng UV17, the GPS model that I've got on the upgraded programming software. I'm surprised how popular this was. Yeah, it's got airband coverage and a colour screen, which is very difficult to see in the daylight, by the way. But for some reason, that radio is very, very popular. More understandably, perhaps, the Kudosin, the SR286 and DX286, amongst the best shortwave portable I've ever owned. And it seems a lot of people agreed with me about just how good that radio was on FM and on medium wave. The Hiroyasu 980 Pro, the IC 980 Pro, remember that? That was a cheap and cheerful dual band radio. It's currently in my car at the moment, set up there. It worked pretty well for the price. I think it was around, it was under 50 UK pounds. The ATS radios, always popular on this channel. I showed you how to upgrade the ATS 20 Plus to the Goshante firmware, which worked very well. I took a look at virtual amateur radio in the shape of Hamsphere. That proved very popular. A lot of people interested in the Hamsphere app. I've done a few Wi-Fi radio reviews and a few discussions about some of the problems with Wi-Fi radios. I guess it's slightly off topic for this channel. It's not shortwave after all, is it? Or amateur radio, but they did prove quite popular. The video that generated the most comments was my video on the reasons not to buy an ATS radio. It certainly seemed to be a hot topic. There were people on both sides of the fence. Some people thought the ATS and particularly the latest ATS 25 iterations were much improved and were good value. Other people thought, as I did, that they're somewhat overpriced and they're really not very good radios. Am I tempted to give the latest one, the ATS 25 Max Decoder 2, I think it is? Will I give that a try? Possibly. It is said to be a lot better. We might take a look at that in the future. The Baofeng AD20, this was a very odd radio, generated a few comments. I'm still looking for software for it. Can't locate any on the internet. Still not sure what digital mode that's transmitting. I think it's one that's unique to Baofeng. Comments I enjoyed reading the most were the ones surrounding the video that I did on my introduction to radio, my shortwave story. And I had a few people come back and say that they had similar beginnings in shortwave and what their first radio was. A couple that come to mind, Adam G7 CRQ said he had a similar experience to me, where in the early 70s he used to tune around on his sister's clock radio. She got fed up with that. He used to tune around any radio could find in the house, and he ended up, I think his parents bought him his first radio, which was a little medium wave and FM set, and he just got hooked onto radio from there via a variety of cheap second-hand shortwave radios. And his first general coverage receiver was a Panasonic. Unlike me, I had the Realistic DX200 from the Tandy catalogue. But similar experience to mine, he was able to listen to SSB on that receiver. He moved on to CB, and eventually later on in the 1980s got his amateur radio license. So kind of very similar. I think a lot of people had similar experiences. Luporis 2375, another one of my commenters, said his father had an ITT radio that had a shortwave band on it, and he became fascinated with that. The world was smaller in those days, he says. How true is that? And we didn't back in the 70s and the 80s, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have Wi-Fi radios, and the only way really to listen, or we didn't have satellite TV really for that matter, the only way to listen to transmissions from abroad was via shortwave, and a lot of us were really, really fascinated with that, and became hooked on these foreign languages, strange sounds, and different views from across the world. So I think I just got one more to go over on that video. I think it was Alan4441. I thought this was quite funny. He became interested in radio when a local radio ham was causing TVI to the television in his home, and the ham came over to fit a TVI filter, and he subsequently showed Alan the equipment he was using that was causing the interference, and he got hooked on the hobby from there. So I thought that was a really good story. There were others, and they were all great, and I enjoyed reading them. So anyone that looks at that video, keep the comments coming. It's nice to know how people got interested in, for most people, it becomes a lifelong hobby. Future of this channel, well, as always, the channel is going to remain a mixture of ham radio and shortwave radio subjects. I'm more of a listener than anything, so I probably do lean towards the shortwave listening aspect. At the end of the day as well, on the amateur radio side, there's only so many cheap dual band handhelds you can own, but I'll probably end up with one or two more at the end of the day. I might look to cover a little bit more on utility listening. That is the transmissions we hear outside of the broadcast and amateur bands. Some of those can be quite interesting. I'll also bring my shortwave story up to date, or reasonably up to date anyway, and I'll tell you how I got involved with amateur radio. I haven't quite got to that stage so far. Another thing I'd like to discuss, and hopefully people will be interested in, is the pirate radio scenes. The pirate radio that we hear in the UK on shortwave, particularly a lot of the stuff we could hear in the past on the pirate radio scene, and how that prompted me to get more interested in the hobby, because it did have quite an influence on me, listening to the Sunday morning pirates as they were back then. Anyway, that's it for this little roundup. I hope it was interesting. It just remains for me to say thank you all for watching, and best wishes for a happy and healthy 2025. Thank you all.